Good evening. This is Maria Riegger, your resident Gemini, with another Positive Parenting with Astrology video. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more free weekly parenting content. Today, we're talking about how parents can navigate their children's first Saturn square transit. This is a very important transit in childhood development, when they're starting to really exercise their autonomy and independence. It is essential for parents to handle it well and to support the child. So first of all, if you haven't seen it already, I recommend that you review my video on how to read your child's astrological birth chart. That will be helpful for you. So the birth chart is a snapshot of the position of the planets at the moment of your child's birth. So it will tell you the sign and house position of the planets, and that will help you understand the child's way of looking at life, way of being, how they handle communication, their learning style, how they recharge their batteries, how they can be fulfilled emotionally, all those things. So when we say the child is going through a Saturn square transit, what that means is, the planet Saturn stays in each sign about 3 years. And it takes about 30 years to kind of make its way around the entire birth chart. So an individual will usually experience several Saturn square transits in their life. So the child's first Saturn square transit happens at about 7 years old. And what that means is the current position of the planet Saturn is at a 90-degree angle to the position where Saturn was when the child was born, which is depicted on the child's birth chart. So if you have further questions about that, please comment below or email me. My email is in the description to this video. So Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. It tends to be a very serious planet. We've talked a little bit about it on my videos on Capricorn sun and moon children. It is a planet that sometimes represents a father figure. It is a planet that represents hard work and sacrificing short-term gains for longer-term rewards. When Saturn's involved, you have to do the work to get to the fulfillment part. So that sometimes can be uncomfortable, but it tends to be a serious planet. It's a planet of structure. It is a planet that helps you narrow choices. And sometimes when your choices are narrowed, you have more freedom because then you know what to concentrate your energy on. So what happens when a child goes through their first Saturn square transit? Like I said, it happens when the child is about 7 years old. So what happens, the first theme kind of is independence, personal autonomy. This is the age, parents, if you have older children, you know this to be true, age 7 is about the age when children really start to see themselves as separate beings from the parents. They have their own wants, needs, and desires. They see themselves as separate individuals from the parents. They start to exercise the autonomy and independence more. They start to say no more to parents. I have a video exclusively on the subject of kids saying no to parents and why that is okay, why you should be okay that your child says no to you. So I encourage you to check that out too. So the child is really becoming separate from the parents, especially from the mother. And this independence should be encouraged and celebrated. This is a normal part of childhood development. This is also a time when children challenge parental authority more and more. This is a normal stage of childhood development. They question the parents' absolute authority to kind of practice their autonomy. And the first place children practice their autonomy and independence is at home with the parents, the safe space. Hopefully, home is a safe space for the child. That's how it should be. So when your child starts to say no more often, starts to question parental authority, this is a normal phenomenon. Okay, so don't consider it as a negative thing, right? So I will say this: insecure parents usually do not handle this stage well because they feel as if they're losing control over the child, when you have to understand that the child is not something for you to control, right? It's not like an entity for you to have absolute control over. Parents raise kids and to be emotionally healthy, independent adults who can navigate life on their own. That is the end goal, right? So sometimes more immature, insecure, codependent parents need to control everything and they don't like losing control of the child. So really question why, when you find yourself kind of being a little more authoritarian and questioning your child's need for autonomy and asserting their independence and saying no to you more often, take a step back and consider what it is that is bothering you. Okay, why do you have to have control over the child for this particular circumstance? There are always no bargain issues. There are always things that obviously you have to tell the child, no, you can't do this, or you can't play that video game, or this cannot happen, and here's the reason, and that's it. This is not a negotiable issue. But many things are not that serious, and the child is exercising and practicing their autonomy. It is not that they want to go against the parents or have it in for the parents or have some other nefarious objective in mind. They are starting to really see themselves as separate beings, and part of that is making their needs and wants known and their voices heard. So just remember that, be sensitive to that. So, okay, and you will realize that the children, as they get older, they are different from the parents. They have different characteristics, different personalities, different ways of seeing the world, different values. That is okay. Not only is it okay, that is to be expected. Your children are not, yes, they have part of your DNA, but they are not carbon copies of you. So be careful about saying things like, oh, you're just like me. I said that to my kid and I regretted it. You're just like me. He's not just like me. Maybe he and I share a personality trait or share a quirk. We share many quirks. But that doesn't mean that he's just like me. He's not just like me. One human being is not just like another human being, not even twins. So be careful about saying that, because you don't want to take away from this sense of individuality that they are growing into. So one of the ways, I've talked about this in other videos, one of the ways I see parenting is you introduce your children to all that the world has to offer, all the experiences, all the subject matter to the extent that you can, and then you kind of take a step back and let them decide for themselves what they want to concentrate their energy on, what they want to focus on, what their values are, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. And you are always there to help them if they have questions or need to navigate something. But you really don't want to push them into doing a certain thing or studying a certain subject. You want to introduce them to all these things and encourage them to explore, and then take a step back and let them decide for themselves what they want to do. So that's largely how I see parenting. I mean, I see it all the time, parents pushing kids, younger kids and older kids, to do certain activities, study certain things in college. But at the end of the day, especially when the kids are older, it's the kids' choice, not the parents. It will affect the kids' lives, right, for the rest of their adult lives, not so much the parents. So things to keep in mind. So to that end, if this transit, this first Saturn square transit, is met by love and support and encouragement from the parent, the child will handle it very well. The child will come into their own. They will learn what they like, what they don't like. They will feel supported by the parent. They will get through the transit, and they will start to become a more mature individual. And that's what you want. So if the parent becomes more authoritarian, does not allow the child to exert their independence, discourages the child from pursuing their own things, or from saying no, or from showing autonomy, the child tends to suffer emotionally, mentally, psychologically. I've said this in many other videos, and I said it earlier in this one. You want your kids to assert their independence and their individuality. That's what you want. You want them to stand up for themselves, because one day you will not be there to stand up for them, and they have to be able to stand up for themselves. So keep that in mind. Okay. All right. So to that end, encourage your children to do more things on their own. As soon as they show the ability, encourage them to do all kinds of things. Help at home, pursue activities, things they like to do, hobbies they like to do, hang out with friends, whatever it is they like to do, encourage that and encourage them. And I see this a lot too, especially moms. They'll say, well, the kids don't do such and such chore well, so I just end up doing it. It's just easier. Well, it may be easier in the moment, but you're not really teaching the kids self-reliance, independence, and you're not helping them become self-confident because you're not allowing them to do things for themselves. Let them do things for themselves. The end result is not really important. It's the process that is important. A 7-year-old child is not going to vacuum as well as an adult. They're not going to clean dishes as well as an adult. They just don't have the skill yet. They will, they just don't have the skill yet. So you show them how to do things and let them do it. And again, don't criticize the end result. Well, that's not very good. You need to do it again. Or that's not how I would do it. Well, sure, it's not how you would do it. You're an adult. We're talking about a 7-year-old. So the process is more important. Them going through the motions of doing the activity, of learning the activity is important, not the end result and not how perfect or imperfect the end result is, okay? You want them to be independent. You want them to learn to do things for themselves, always in an age-appropriate way, but you need to show them that they can do it. That breeds self-confidence. It's not just about them doing chores at home. It's about them becoming self-reliant, independent adults eventually. Okay, so, and most importantly, you always want to make sure that your kids know you love them unconditionally. I say this in almost every video. You may think they know that. Sometimes I see parents, few parents I know will tell children, oh, my love for you is dependent on XYZ. It's kind of in the between the lines where kids get this message. Parents suggest through their actions, not so much as they don't articulate this usually through their actions, they'll suggest that, well, the child's worth is dependent on the grades they get, or the child's worth is dependent on how many chores they do at home, or whether they respect the parents, or whether they're nice to their siblings. A human being is worthy because a human being is worthy. Full stop. The end, right? Human being is not worthy because of their income or status, or if they respect their parents. They should respect their parents. I'm not saying otherwise, but their worth is not tied to that, or grades, or really any kind of achievement at all. A human being is worthy because a human being is worthy. Your children are worthy because they're human beings and are worthy, the end. And you love them unconditionally. It doesn't matter if their grades are bad. It doesn't matter if they flunk out of school. You love them, right? So this kind of transit where the child is really coming into their own as an individual, that type of support, the unconditional love, is essential, because from that place of support and unconditional love, they are able to grow into who they are going to be. This is really the time when they are starting to become, not yet, it's a long way to go yet, they're starting to become the people they really are, the people they're really going to do, the people they are really going to become. Okay, so that love and support from the parents is essential for them to feel comfortable with that growth. Okay, so I want to go over a couple things from a great book that my friend Dominique recommended, which is called Child Astrology by M.J. Abadi, is the author. So the author mentions, just like a lack of vitamins can cause growth deficiencies, a lack of love can cause a child to feel unlovable. And this lack of love can impair the child's ability to love and be loved. And that often creates unhealthy dynamics in adult relationships. So again, you love the child without condition, full stop, that's it, right? Make sure they know that. And you can tell that to them. There's nothing you could do or say that would make me love you any less. Mom, I got a bad grade, I'm sorry. And in my house, that's happened. My sons apologize for like a bad grade, whatever that means. And I tell them, look, the grade is not important. This material you're studying is important because it will help you navigate life. If you don't understand it, tell me, I will help you, but the grade is not important. You learning this material is important. Do you understand the material? Well, yeah, I just made some careless mistakes here. Like this is this and this is this. Okay, you understand the material. Fine, that's it. So you got a C or a D. You're not going to fail fourth grade. I mean, so what? So that's what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that they're getting kind of the intellectual nourish and loving and emotional nourishment they need, but the things like grades are not as important. And you certainly do not want to suggest that the child's worth is linked to grades or any other material type of achievement. Okay, so the other big theme with the first Saturn square transit is the child, in addition to becoming more independent, starting to become more separate from the parents, the child is exercising logic more and more. This is a good thing, obviously. With the toddler stage, it's very hard because they're not logical and drive parents nuts, and they're all, have tantrums and whatnot. You really can't reason with a toddler. But at age 7, you can reason with a child, and you can tell them, no, we can't do that. Here's the reason, without going into this long-winded diatribe, right? Especially if you have like an air sign, like an Aquarius or Gemini child, they're not going to even hear you when you're giving them a lecture. So just don't give a lecture ever. It's totally counterproductive. Give them a short reason, a brief reason. Here, we can't do this because X. Here's the reason. And they can understand that to a greater extent at this age. Okay. All right. A couple other things. Oh, yeah. They are better able to articulate their wants and needs, right? And you teach them by talking to them and articulating things, and they will articulate things back to you. I did that with my son, and he started to articulate more complex feelings and emotions because I was doing it with him. Sounds like you feel this way. Is this correct? Okay. Do you want some alone time right now? Would you like me to sit with you? Things like this. Okay. Okay. So now, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss logic and reason, if I discussed logic and reason on this video and did not discuss the planet Mercury. Mercury is a personal favorite planet of mine. I'm a Gemini sun, I have a Gemini Mercury. My son has a Gemini moon. He has Mercury conjunct the sun. So we're very Mercurian in my household. So Mercury represents how people exercise logic and reason. It also represents communication styles. People communicate. It also represents a child, especially important for children, their learning style, right? So this is the age where the planet Mercury really kind of gets into full force, where the child is almost embodying the planet Mercury because they are like a sponge absorbing and learning all this information that they are taking in, and they are able to exercise logic and reason to a much greater extent. So this is also something my friend Dominique Caramillo, who's a parenting expert and astrologer, points out. So look at the sign and house position of your child's Mercury to learn both how they express the energy of the planet, their learning styles. If you have Mercury in a water sign, they're going to be making decisions probably to a greater extent based on feelings and emotions. If they have Mercury in an air sign, they're going to be very detached, make decisions in a very detached way, and use logic and rationality more often when they make decisions. So, okay. Mercury represents, that we said, the ability to reason and process, integrate, and communicate information so that the children can learn from others and from the world around them. So that is a very good planet to pay attention to around when your child is around the age of 7, to know how they learn best and how they communicate and what kind of role logic and rationality plays in their decision making. Okay, the last main point I want to bring out, this is something that author MJ Abadi brings up in her book on child astrology. Age 7, this Saturn square transit is also the time when kind of inherited family dynamics tend to play out with the child. So if you've kind of studied family dynamics at all, you'll know that often kind of trauma is often generational. It is something that is passed down, inherited through the genes or emotionally, psychologically, however it is often passed down. So the child is inheriting all these family traditions, including genetics and any generational trauma. So healing this generational trauma, as Denzel Washington says, is not for the weak. I know, I've done it myself as an adult, still doing it. It is extremely energy sapping. It is often a very lonely endeavor because you may have to cut off family members and people will not understand that. So it is often a very lonely thing to do, and it is nothing I would wish on a child, to have to heal generational family trauma and be the generation that trauma, those dynamics end. It takes a lot of energy and emotional capital to do. So when your child turns around age 7 and hits that first Saturn square transit, you're going to have to make a decision about which of the family dynamics and traditions you want to carry on with your child and which you do not want to. Figure out which of those dynamics and traditions are positive and which are negative, and get rid of the negative ones. Don't do it. Don't pass them on to your child. Okay. Some of those negative dynamics are things we touched on earlier, suggesting to a child that love is a quid pro quo emotion, that you do X for me, so I do X for you. It's not. So those are the kind of things we're talking about. Okay. So child is also inheriting with those family traditions, some prejudice, possibly family rooted prejudices and point of view. So again, think about what you want to pass on to your child and what you don't want to pass on. Okay. All right. Talked about that. Okay. So I'll end with something I talk about in almost every video, which is the best way to handle this Saturn square transit, right, is to make sure you have a very strong relationship with your child. Part of that is knowing they are loved unconditionally, like we talked about. And part of that is them knowing that you are always there to answer any questions that they have. Okay, how do you form the close, strong relationship? Parents ask me that all the time. How do I do that? What recommendations do you have? Well, I mention this very frequently. One is to spend lots of quality one-on-one time with your child, with each children, if you have multiple children, in a pressure-free way where you're occupying the same space. There's no pressure to do anything. And they will naturally open up to you when you're just kind of hanging out with them and you are showing them that you enjoy their company, you enjoy hanging out with them. Okay. 2, do not emotionally overreact when they tell you things, even when they tell you things that are bad or unpleasant. Listen first. Listen, make eye contact with them, show them that you're listening, show them that what they're telling you is important. Okay. And make sure you listen without judgment, also very important. Okay. And of course, lastly, making sure that they know you accept them exactly as they are, even if they are different from you, even if they end up having different values, characteristics from you, the parent, you accept them exactly as they are. I'm more of a loner. I like to do a lot of things on my own. My son almost always prefers to do things with people. So that's those are different kind of ways of being that we have, and we respect that about each other. If we need alone time, we'll tell each other, hey, I need a little bit of alone time. Nothing to do with you. I just need some alone time. So, or if he needs some time with friends, we'll schedule time with friends, even if I really don't feel like it, because I'd rather just be at home or be by myself. I'll schedule time with his friends because he needs that. So those are the things we're talking about. Okay. So to sum up, the first Saturn square transit, when your child hits about age 7, means that the child is really starting to become who they are and who they are going to be as an adult. It is giving them some structure. It is helping them start to grow up. Obviously, they're only 7 at this time. Still a lot of development to go through. They're starting to become who they really are. They're starting to mature, starting to exercise logic more. It's an extremely powerful transit. Again, look at the planet Mercury, what that tells you about the child's learning style, their way of communicating, their ways of using logic processing, evaluating data, and look at the house that the transit Saturn is going to hit in the chart, because that will also tell you the themes of your child's life that will be involved in that transit. Okay. So they obviously still need the parents very much at this time. It is essential that you are there to answer any questions that they have, and to help them if they're going through any tough times. And always make time for them. It is more important that when your child wants to talk to you, especially about something important, you drop everything and listen to them. Chores can wait, other things can wait. So to the extent that you can, pare down your life, make sure you are there for the child. Okay? That is the first Saturn square transit. I hope that was helpful, and I will be back next week with more content. All right. Have a great weekend.